Hey, good evening. This is Mark with Right Line Trading, and I just wanted to make a short video for you to show you some of the trade entries that occurred today on some of our markets. We're using the order flow Laguerre system, and first, why don't we take a look at the NQ? Now, NQ is the only market I looked at beforehand, just to give us a little bit of extra speed here. And you can see this is a number 2 trade. We get the movement down, the pullback on the wick, our entry 1 tick below the close of the candle. You look down, we have both Laguerres locked to the downside, red, red. Candle is highlighted in magenta, which means we have order flow. We have a nice trade to the short side for 21 ticks. Now we can look as hard as we can for losers. We look right here. Here's exactly the same trade in the reverse direction. You get the movement up. We're above the 50. We only go long when price is above the 50. We get the wick, the pullback, the continuation 1 tick above. Both Laguerres are locked long. Order flow is in our direction. The candle is highlighted in blue. We're up for 30 ticks. This is a terrific trade because support, the wick comes back to dual support of the 50 and the 15. Remember, we only go long above the 50, short below the 50. We want the 15 green and up. We want the 50 green and up, the 15 green and up. Now, our long-term Laguerre is green, and our chart Laguerre is heading up at a real nice slope. So we have dual momentum. We don't get a lock of our chart Laguerre for a while. Doesn't matter, as long as we have the long-term Laguerre locked and our chart Laguerre is moving in the same direction. It's moving long. We're up, and we got a trade for 87 ticks. Just a stellar trade. So right away, we got 21, 30, and 87. Now we can't take a continuation long, because all we've got underneath us is yellow. Impossible to trade. Then we get a pivot. Can't trade above it. Again, nothing here but yellow. So lack of alignment prevents us from taking any future trade on the YM. So the YM was good for 3 absolutely stellar trades. Now let's move to the Nasdaq, which is really, I think, the beast market, the real tough one. Let's take a look. I do have the Nasdaq marked. It's from this morning. Let's go right to the beginning. Because I go over, in the trading room, I go over all of this when we close. We finish our trading, and you can see we have a pivot here. We never trade into unbroken pivots. It's a very unique pivot indicator, very powerful. You only get a break of a pivot when 2/3 of a candle body closes above it. This pivot maintained its integrity. Price came up and hit it, bounced. Came up, hit it, bounced. Came up, hit it, bounced. And there's your perfect number 2 trade down for 4.5 points, 18 ticks. Both Laguerres lock short, candle outlined in magenta. So we have the multi-time frame assessment of momentum in our direction. Now we can't take this trade to the long side. There's no pullbacks. See, there's no wicks. And we don't get that multi-time frame alignment until late. Just no place to trade. Now we'd like to take this pivot break, but we can't. Now we have this move up, and we'd really like to take this number 2 pullback trade and continuation, but we can't because our long-term Laguerre right here is yellow. And it's going to prevent us from getting some trades that are successful, which is the price we pay for being able to avoid an enormous number of losers. Now as we move down, we have nothing to trade here at all. And there's a great trade right here. We get price coming right back to dual support of the 15 and the 50 right here. Candles outlined in blue. So we have order flow aligned to the upside with buying pressure. Now we have the long-term Laguerre lock long, which we must have right here. And we have the Laguerre on our trading chart heading straight up. We get another 6 3/4 points. Now this is a break of the pivot, and this is a trade configuration and entry that I'm going to explain in the webinar we're going to hold next week for all of you who have already come aboard, and those of you who may come aboard soon. This is a 3.5, 3.25 point trade on a break of a pivot. 2/3 candle body closes above it, breaks it. You don't see a trace anymore, and you get 13 ticks. It's a really nice trade. Now here's another successful trade we can't take. We don't have the long-term Laguerre assessment, and we don't have order flow. And we can't take this trade either because it's really tight to the pivot. And I don't trade up into unbroken pivots. There's our next trade. Here we have plenty of room to the pivot. Dual Laguerres locked long. There's your pullback. Now you can play this trade one of two ways. You can take it off at resistance, which is the pivot, or with our first target long gone and our stop way above break even for the remaining contract that we have, we can just let it stay at play and hope for a pivot break. Or as I said, we could close the trade right here. Close the trade right here, we get 3.25 points. If we decide to trade with a little more risk and go all the way, maximum excursion is 8 3/4 points. 35 ticks. Here's your number 2. Pull back. Laguerre's lock long. Order flow in our direction. And up we go for another really nice trade. $9 points. The continuation trade, another winner. Right here. Laguerre's locked long, order flow with us. Five and a quarter points. It's 21 ticks. So now we're ready at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's really about it. Actually, you have a trade right here on a pivot break. So you can see, as choppy as the Nasdaq can be and as difficult to trade as it can be, there was no way you could trade a loser on today's Nasdaq if you simply obeyed just a few simple rules. It would be impossible to have gotten a losing trade. That's just how powerful the system is. Now let's take a quick look at the E-mini. And I have to change the inputs. on the E-mini. I did already mark it. I didn't think I did. This must obviously be from this morning. Here's the open. We have nothing to trade here. This is 9:55. Hang on a second here. Go back to 9:32, right here. Now here's your first trade, your pullback and continuation. It's not a huge trade, but it's a winner. That's 9 ticks. Now in here, you cannot take this long because order flow is aligned to the downside. This up candle is associated with a magenta halo. You can't trade a magenta halo long. Here, you've got a long trade, and this is a small trade. This might make a first target. Entries here. That's going to go 1.5 points. It's probably going to hit your first target. So you have 2.25 points, no trade here, and 1.25 points here. Here's your pivot break right here, and you're up over 3 points. Easy trade. Well, I'm sorry. There's no long-term Laguerre here. I apologize. And you know what? I did not rotate. The input value should be 5. Should be 8. I'm sorry. Let's go back and reevaluate and start over again. Okay. Here we go. So here's the first trade. Right here. And now the trade actually becomes longer. So we can get in right here. And we're going to get another 2 ticks. So it's going to be 2.75 points. And this trade is actually going to be longer as well. And I'm sorry, now I can see. I apologize. We have no long-term Laguerre on this entry. You look right here, then go down here. And draw it in. Here we go. There is no long-term Laguerre. So this loser, or potential 1.5 point trade, cannot be taken. Then we get this great pivot breaker right here. Both Laguerres lock long, and up we go. I have it scaled at 3, but I think the trade is closer to 3.5 points. Then we have the pullback right here. So number 2, you can see the wick right there. Break the pivot, we pull back. The continuation is 3.75 points. 15 ticks. And that's it for the day. So we just get a few trades, but all of them winners. This trade, 2.25 points. This trade is not a trade. The long-term Laguerre is not present. This trade cannot be taken because order flow is aligned in the wrong direction, which makes it a very high-risk trade. We don't want to take any trades with a significant amount of risk. Here's your pivot breaker for over 3 points on Laguerre's lock long. Order flow with us with the blue halo. And here's our pullback with both Laguerre's lock long and candle halo up for 3.75. So it was a terrific day on the E-mini. 3.753, about 7 points, about 10 points in total. Now that's maximum excursion. Obviously, you're not going to get from entry to the top of the trade. But if you can pull out a nice piece of it, 75 or 80% of that move, you're going to make really, really nice money. So I hope you see how powerful the system is. There was not one setup here that could have given us a loser. Thought we had it here until I looked at the long term. And the long-term Laguerre was not yet prepared to go green. So it really did save us from taking a loser. There were no other trades that we could have taken because the alignment of both Laguerres and order flow doesn't happen that often. We're only going to take a long trade when the 50 is up, heading up in green, when the 15 is up, heading up in green, and we break a pivot or we move through and pull back into a confirmed trend and continue to the long side. A number one trade has to do with the arrows on our trading chart. I just didn't see any of the number one trades today, but we really have 3 entries. This is a number 1 entry, the pullback is a number 2, and the break of a pivot is a number 3. And I'm going to go over all of that next week. I'm going to hold a webinar in the afternoon. We've had quite a few traders already come aboard. I'm hoping that you'll consider doing it as well, because I want to see you in the live trading room on Monday morning, because we're aiming to make some money, and just want you to see how powerful the system is. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And again, I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.